She feels the stare before she finds it. Not the usual kind, not the slow, measuring look that powerful men give women they want to reduce. This one is different. Colder, more precise. The kind of stare that doesn't undress. It dissects. Nia Calderon sets her champagne flute down on the white linen tablecloth and lifts her chin. 500 of the most powerful people in New York City are packed inside the Grand Astoria ballroom tonight, and every single one of them, at some point in the last hour, has looked at her. She knows that look. She was built to outlast it. But this one is coming from somewhere she hasn't pinpointed yet. Welcome to AfroKorean Films HQ, the only channel where the stories they try to bury in both worlds get pulled from the ground and told out loud. If this is your first time here, stay close. We don't do ordinary. The ballroom smells like old money, gardenias, aged cognac, and the particular kind of cologne that costs more than a month's rent in the Bronx. The chandeliers drip crystal light onto silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. A string quartet near the east wall plays jazz the way certain people smile, controlled, correct, and entirely without feeling. Nia smooths the cuff of her deep burgundy gown with 2 fingers and scans the room the way she always scans rooms, methodically, quietly, the way a woman learns to scan when she's spent her life being the only one in it who looks like her. She clocks the exits, the camera crew, the cluster of board members near the curtain who keep glancing toward her table and then away, as if eye contact might obligate them to something. She is the only black woman at the head table tonight, the only one in the room whose net worth wasn't passed down through a bloodline. The philanthropic board being honored here once sent her a rejection letter that used the phrase overreaching ambition, as if that were a diagnosis. Tonight, they will give her their annual Innovation Award and shake her hand and smile for the cameras. She will smile back. Because Nia Calderon did not build Caldertech Logistics by letting other people's opinions write her story. Across the room, 3 men in bespoke tuxedos exchange a glance that lasts less than 2 seconds. She doesn't know their names yet, but she knows what that glance means. The same shorthand she's seen in boardrooms and courtrooms and congressional hearings. Power touching base with power. A quick check. Is the room still ours? Near the bar, Councilman Barrett Halverson rolls his glass between both palms and watches her with the specific irritation of a man who believes in consequences and is currently waiting on one. 6 weeks ago, Halverson showed up in her office with what he called an investment opportunity. A public-private development deal, city-backed, fast-tracked. He sat across from her desk in a charcoal suit and spoke with the confidence of someone who had never once been told no by someone like her. She told him no. He smiled, said he completely understood. Stood, buttoned his jacket, walked to the door. He didn't understand at all. The stare is still there. She feels it sitting against the back of her neck like a cold hand, deliberate, patient. She turns slowly, not because she is startled, but because she is ready. Near the far column, half covered by shadow, standing completely still while everything around him moves, is a man she has never seen before tonight. Korean, late 30s, maybe 40, tailored black tuxedo, no pocket square, no jewelry. His face is the face of someone who decided a long time ago that emotion was a resource to be rationed. He doesn't look away when her eyes find him. He was already waiting for her to look. And just like that, the most powerful room in Manhattan suddenly feels 3 sizes too small. Then, a sound. Small. Warm. Close enough to her left shoulder that she feels the breath before she hears the words. She turns. A little girl stands at the edge of her table. 6 years old, maybe. A cream cardigan buttoned all the way up. Straight dark hair divided into 2 careful pigtails. Her small hands are folded in front of her like she was taught to hold them that way before she was taught to walk. She looks at Nia the way a scientist looks at something she has been trying to name. Then, barely above a whisper, barely above silence itself. "Can I sit with you?" Nia's hand stills on the tablecloth, because a 6-year-old girl doesn't wander into the Grand Astoria ballroom alone. I had nothing in this room, not tonight, is an accident. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now. What do you think this little girl is doing here tonight, and whose child is she? Stay with us, because the answer is going to change everything. Chapter 2. The girl doesn't wait for permission. She pulls the chair out herself, quiet, no scraping, and sits with the kind of posture that is not natural for a 6-year-old. Spine straight, chin level, hands folded in her lap. Like something she learned the way other children learn to tie their shoes, by being corrected until it became instinct. Nia watches her settle and feels something she didn't expect to feel tonight. Unease, not fear. Unease, the specific discomfort of being in the presence of something that does not fit the category it should fit. "My name is Yoon-hee," the girl says, not offered shyly, stated, precise, like a handshake. Nia studies her. Dark eyes, completely steady. No fidgeting, no looking around at the ballroom spectacle the way any other child would. No wonder at the chandeliers or the gowns or the towers of food on the buffet table nearby. She is entirely focused on Nia, as if this is the only interesting thing in the room. "You look lonely," Yoon-hee says. Nia almost laughs. Almost. Because she is sitting at the head table of a 500-person gala, surrounded by the kind of wealth that buys whole city blocks. And a first grader just diagnosed her with the one thing she hasn't said out loud to anyone in 3 years. Loneliness is not about the number of people in a room. It is about how many of them would notice if you walked out. "I'm not lonely," Nia says carefully. Just careful. Yoon-hee considers this the way adults consider complicated news. She turns it over, checks it from the back, then nods once, filing it somewhere specific. Her dark eyes move across the ballroom, the pearls, the suits, the practiced grins, the way certain people hold a glass to look occupied so they don't have to have real conversations. "You don't look like them," she says, not with cruelty, with the clean accuracy of a child who hasn't learned yet to soften the truth for the comfort of adults. Nia feels the statement land in her chest. She is the only black woman at the head table, the only one who arrived here through doors she had to build herself after the existing ones were locked. The only one whose welcome tonight is performative rather than genuine, a diversity checkbox dressed in award show lighting. "What makes you say that?" Nia asks. Yoon-hee tilts her head just slightly. Her eyes move back to Nia's face. "Everyone else is pretending," she says. "Even the ones who smile at me. You're not pretending." The words hit harder than they should from a 6-year-old. Because in one sentence, but this child has said what 3 years of company milestones and magazine covers and philanthropic awards have not given Nia permission to say out loud. She is tired of rooms where pretending is the price of entry. She leans forward. "Where is your—" Yoon-hee points, not toward the bar, not toward the buffet or the dancing floor or the cluster of board members near the stage. She points toward the far column where the light barely reaches, where the man in the black tuxedo stands exactly as still as he was 3 minutes ago. He has not moved. He has not looked away from this table. Nia feels the air shift, feels the awareness of every person within 15 feet change, not dramatically, just a degree, the way a crowd unconsciously adjusts when a predator walks through it, and then the shadow arrives. No footsteps, just shadow, then presence. Then a single word spoken without a single raised note. Spoken the way thunder would speak if it understood restraint. Yoon-hee. The girl does not flinch, but her hands, still folded in her lap, tighten just slightly. And Nia, for the first time all evening, feels something she has spent her entire career training herself not to show. Tell me something right now. Did you feel that? Because the moment this man speaks, something changes in every person nearby. But not in Nia. I comment below, do you think she should be afraid? And what does it tell you that she isn't? Hit that subscribe button because what comes next? Nobody in this ballroom saw it coming. Chapter 3. His voice does not rise above a conversational level. It doesn't need to. It has the quality of something that has never once needed to be loud, because loud is for people who doubt whether they will be heard. This man has never doubted that. His name is Kwon Jae-min. And in the rooms where his name actually matters, the encrypted channels, the back corner conversations between men who understand what consequences look like, he is not called that. He is called the White Tiger, head of a Korean syndicate that his father built on violence and that Jae-min rebuilt with cold intelligence into something far harder to prosecute. Clean investments running in front, an architecture of offshore accounts running underneath, city officials whose careers he had quietly funded, business partners who had tried to walk away and found their options narrowed overnight. Tonight he is standing at Nia Calderon's table at a Manhattan gala, and that alone, in this room, among these people, is a statement loud enough to stop breathing. This is AfroKorean Films HQ, the only channel where the stories that fall through the cracks between two worlds get told in full. If you're new here, you picked the right night to show up. My daughter has a habit of wandering, he says to Nia, his tone so measured it functions as a test dressed as an apology. I hope she didn't disturb you. Nia looks up at him from her chair without standing. Eye level or not, she gives him nothing he didn't ask for. She didn't, Nia says. 3 people at the neighboring table find reasons to look elsewhere. A man near the bar turns his back and becomes very interested in his drink. A woman in sapphire blue, mid-sentence with her companion, lets the sentence die. The room knows who Kwon Jae-min is, and the room knows that the correct response to his proximity is to become very small, very quiet, and very elsewhere. Nia doesn't move. Jae-min's eyes stay on her face. He is reading something, processing. She can see it. Not in an expression, because his face hasn't changed, but in the quality of his attention. She is not behaving according to any script he expected. Yoon-hee looks between the two of them. Her dark eyes move left. It's then right, the clinical interest of a child running an experiment. She's not afraid of you, Yoon-hee says. A simple observation, delivered without drama, the way a weather report is delivered. The muscle in Jae-min's jaw moves, a single small contraction, almost nothing, the kind of tell that only exists if you were already paying close attention. Nia was paying close attention. She catalogs it, files it, because in the world she has navigated her entire career, small reactions from powerful people are the only data that tells the truth. Fear is the currency of his world. Every person who enters his orbit pays with it. The flinch, the quick look away, the careful softening of words before they are said. Fear is what buys compliance, what buys silence, what keeps an empire from having to use actual force more than occasionally. Nia is not paying. She doesn't know yet, cannot know yet, what that costs her, what it changes. But she can see in the fraction of silence that follows Yoon-hee's observation that it has changed something in Kwon Jae-min's calculation of this night. He reaches down and rests one hand on Yoon-hee's shoulder, a gesture that is simultaneously protective and possessive, the gesture of a man for whom love and control have been the same word for a very long time. We should let Ms. Calderon enjoy her evening, he says. Yoon-hee does not move immediately. She looks at Nia one more time with those eyes that are too old for that face, as if she is memorizing something she will need later. Then she stands, slides her chair in quietly, takes her father's hand. They walk back toward the column, and the room slowly, carefully exhales. Nia picks up her champagne flute. Across the ballroom, Barrett Halverson has his phone out. His thumb moves quickly across the screen. He is not answering an email. He is sending a 2-word message to the technician stationed in the AV booth at the back of the room. Do it. The trap he built 6 weeks ago has just been armed. You see what just happened there? Halverson wasn't even watching Nia when he sent that message. He was watching Kwon. Think about that. Comment below, why does seeing Nia with the white tiger make Halverson move faster instead of slower? The answer reveals everything about what tonight is really about. Chapter 4. The lights on the stage go up at 9 o'clock exactly. Board Chairman Whitfield approaches the podium with the slow, self-important energy of a man who believes that a room full of people waiting on him is a form of respect rather than a contractual obligation. He adjusts the microphone, clears his throat, surveys his audience with the satisfaction of a man who has never once had to fight for the right to stand in a room. Nia sits at the head table with her back straight and her expression completely neutral. Yoonhee is 2 seats to her left, settled back into her chair, hands folded again, watching Whitfield with the same steady assessment she turned on everything else tonight. Jaemin has resumed his position against the wall, standing, never sitting, positioned where every entrance is in his line of sight simultaneously. Halverson is 3 tables back, rolling an empty glass between both palms, counting silently. 90 seconds. 60. The countdown exists only in his head, but Nia would find out later that he rehearsed it 17 times in the 48 hours before this event. The timing had to be exact. Too early in the program and it looked rushed. Too late and the room would be half drunk and distracted. He needed maximum attention. Maximum witnesses, maximum cameras. 30 seconds. The 10-foot LED screen behind the stage flickers. Once. Just once. Just enough to draw eyes upward. Then it fills. Financial documents spread across the screen in clean, readable columns. Wire transfer confirmations. Ledger records. Account numbers traced to offshore structures in 3 different countries. And at the top of every single page, centered, bold, unmistakable, the Caldertech Logistics logo. Nia's company name, her signature, transactions she has never made, accounts she has never opened. A financial trail she has never walked, built specifically, carefully, and with considerable skill to look exactly like she had. The gasps start at the back of the room and move forward like a wave finding its shore. Phones rise, cameras turn. The sharp modern sound of a public fall being documented in real time fills the ballroom, hundreds of small clicks and the blue-white flash of screens capturing the screen. Whitfield grips the podium and looks at his team offstage with the face of a man whose event has just been hijacked. Halverson rises from his chair. He does it slowly, giving the room time to see him, giving the cameras time to find him. He has the practiced, heavy-hearted expression of a man who has just discovered something deeply unfortunate and is already grieving it on behalf of the institution. "It appears," he says, his voice traveling across the stunned room with the ease of a man who has given 1,000 public statements, "that there may be irregularities here that deserve serious examination. For the integrity of this board and of the city contracts at stake." He pauses. Lets it breathe. 60% of the cameras in the room swing toward Nia. She does not move. Her hands rest flat on the white linen tablecloth. Her spine stays straight. Her breathing stays even. Her face gives the room exactly nothing. Not panic, not outrage, not the fragile performance of innocence that guilty people produce and innocent people sometimes produce worse. She gives them stillness. Clean, complete, unshakable stillness. Because Nia Calderon has been in this moment before. Not in this room, not with these stakes. But she knows the architecture of it. The moment when someone decides that the best way to stop a powerful Black woman is to rewrite her story from underneath her. She has been prepared for this her entire career, the way certain people carry an umbrella not because they check the forecast, but because they have learned that the storm comes regardless. She does not stand. She does not speak. She picks up her champagne flute and takes one slow, deliberate sip. Behind her, she hears Jaemin shift his weight, half an inch, a barely there adjustment, and then the screen flickers again. The Caldertech documents begin to dissolve. Something else is loading. Pause right here, because what just happened in that ballroom is something every powerful person fears more than failure. A public exposure in front of the people whose opinion runs the city. Nia didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't run. As a comment, what does it tell you about a woman who responds to being framed in front of 500 people by picking up her champagne glass? Like this video if you know exactly what kind of strength that takes. Chapter 5. The Caldertech documents vanish layer by layer, replaced from underneath by a different set of files entirely. New columns, new names, new account numbers in new jurisdictions. The structure is different, messier, more complex. Was the financial architecture of someone who built their corruption over many years and many partners and many hands that were supposed to keep it clean. At the top of the new documents, repeated on every page in the same clean font the previous files used, Halverson Community Growth Initiative. Transfers running from city contracts into ghost accounts. Funds earmarked for public housing routed through 3 shell companies and resurfacing in a private account registered to a name that takes the room 4 full seconds to connect to the silver-haired man standing by his table. The silence in the Grand Astoria ballroom is the kind that precedes catastrophic noise. And then, in the lower right corner of the final document, small enough that it should be easy to miss and placed there specifically because it isn't, a watermark. A white tiger. Someone at a nearby table makes a sound that isn't a word. The sound of understanding arriving faster than the body is ready for it. Whitfield releases the podium and takes one visible step back, creating the kind of distance that men in his position create when they want to exist on record as having not been involved. Halverson's face undergoes a change. The crafted expression of civic concern, built over decades of practice, and deployed in press briefings and city council chambers and the televised aftermath of scandals that were always, somehow, other people's scandals, simply stops working. It doesn't fall dramatically. It just stops, like a machine running out of current. What replaces it is the actual face underneath, smaller, older, cornered. Jamin steps forward from the wall, one step, unhurried. The step of someone who arrived at this destination a long time before tonight and has been waiting patiently for the room to catch up. "I believe," he says, his voice reaching exactly the perimeter he intends it to reach, no further, no less, that accuracy matters when the subject is corruption. The east doors of the Grand Astoria ballroom open. 4 people enter in dark suits. Not his people. Federal agents, carrying the specific, untheatrical authority of individuals who arrived with paperwork already stamped. They move through the room with the unhurried ease of a conclusion that has already been written and is simply now being delivered. Halverson takes one step back, then stops, because there is nowhere to go when a room this size has been that thoroughly closed. The ballroom watches. 500 people, many of whom have spent years benefiting from Halverson's particular brand of civic corruption. I now watch him escorted toward the service exit with the focused interest of people reassessing every favor they ever accepted. Ania sits at the head table and watches all of it. The documents, the watermark, the federal agents, the timing, the precision, and feels the cold, specific clarity of a woman who has just realized she was not protected tonight. She was positioned. Everything about this evening was built before she walked through the doors. The award, the exposure, the documents on screen, the real documents replacing them, Halverson's panic, the federal agents already waiting for their cue, the child who sat down beside her, the man who allowed it. All of it constructed, all of it deliberate, and she was the variable that made Halverson move, the credible enough target, the compelling enough threat, the name on the screen that guaranteed he would expose himself trying to destroy her. She was bait. Not the victim, the bait. She turns in her chair. Jamin is already looking at her. He was already waiting for her to turn. She holds his gaze across the room and says 3 words in a voice flat enough to carry weight without needing volume. "You used me." He doesn't look away. He doesn't deny it. The most dangerous moment in this story isn't when Nia's name goes on that screen. It's this one, right here. Because Jamin just looked at a woman who caught him, fully, clearly, without flinching. And he didn't lie. What does that tell you? Comment your read on this man right now. Is he calculating, or is he, for the first time in a very long time, genuinely surprised? Subscribe and hit the bell. Episode 2 drops next. And what Jamin says next is the sentence that's he doesn't deny it. 3 words from Nia, and Kwon Jae-min stands there in the wreckage of Barrett Halverson's public disgrace, federal agents moving in the background, 500 witnesses still holding their phones up. And he simply does not deny what he did. That is what stops her breath. Not the admission itself, the lack of apology around it. He moves from the wall toward her table, not hurrying, not performing. The room parts for him the way water parts for something heavy, instinctively, without being asked. He stops 2 feet from her chair, and the noise of the ballroom, the whispers, the shuffling, the reporters already calling in their leads, all of it goes soft at the edges. "I needed to know," he says, "whether you could hold under pressure, whether the threat of losing everything you built would make you fold. So you put my name on that screen. Halverson put your name on that screen. I made sure the truth followed it." "That is not a distinction I find comforting." He stood his ground. "If you had panicked, if you had rushed to that microphone and started defending yourself to a room already deciding against you, you would have confirmed their story, the version of you they needed to win. I had to see if you understood that. And if I hadn't?" The pause that follows is not long, but it is complete. Then you would not be someone I allow near my daughter." Nia stares at him. The anger is real. It sits in her chest like a hot coal, solid and specific. But underneath the anger is something more complicated, because she understands the math of what he just said. She doesn't have to respect the method to recognize the logic. Yoon-hee sits 2 seats away, both small hands flat on the tablecloth, watching the two of them with the concentrated focus of a child who knows she is the subject of a conversation that is also about much larger things. "You are raising her in this world," Nia says, "in rooms where people are moved like pieces. I am raising her to survive a world that does not forgive weakness." Nia holds his eyes, does not move, does not soften. "Survival without humanity is not strength," she says. "It is just loneliness with better security." Something shifts in his face, not an expression, more the shadow of one. The kind of movement that happens in a person when a true thing lands in a place that hasn't been touched in a very long time. He looks at Yoon-hee, then back at Nia, and then he says the sentence that reframes the entire night. "Her mother was Black American." The ballroom noise disappears entirely. I'd stay right there, because what he says next about her mother is the sentence that explains everything. Why Yoon-hee walked to Nia's table, why he allowed it, and why the most feared man in New York just cracked open in public for the first time in years. Drop your reaction in the comments. We read every single one. Chapter 7. 4 words. And they land in the room like a stone through glass. Nia does not move, does not speak. She gives him the silence he needs to continue, because she has learned that the most important things people say are always the things they have been holding the longest. And those things require space around them to breathe. "Her name was Zola," he says. He says it carefully. The way people say the names of the dead when they are still not entirely used to the past tense. Zola Renee Okafor, from Atlanta, investigative journalist. She spent 2 years building a case against the Choi faction, a rival syndicate operating out of Queens. A money laundering, human trafficking networks buried inside import companies. The kind of story that wins awards and ends careers and gets the person who wrote it killed before it publishes. He stops. The muscle in his jaw moves. They found out. They moved before she could file the story. Yoon-hee was 8 months old. Nia feels the words enter her body in a way that bypasses analysis entirely, not as information, as weight. "I hid her heritage afterward," he continues. "In Korean circles, how her mother's identity is unknown. In America, she does not exist on any record that connects her to me. I kept her invisible on purpose, from both worlds, because the Choi faction does not forget, and a child is the most effective leverage a man can be handed. So she grows up belonging to neither side," Nia says. It is not an accusation. It is a recognition, because Nia knows this specific kind of fracture. The particular exhaustion of being expected to split yourself cleanly between two identities that each demand the whole of you. The way a person learns to edit themselves down before entering any room, removing the parts that make certain people uncomfortable, until one day they look in a mirror and realize they've been performing a version of themselves so long they've forgotten what the original felt like. She looks at Yoon-hee. At the cream cardigan and the careful pigtails and the ancient eyes that see everything and are given permission to say very little. She deserves to know all of herself, Nia says. Not the version that keeps other people comfortable. All of it. Jaemin looks at his daughter. And for 3 full seconds, the armor that has held this man together through syndicate wars and federal investigations, and the private grief of raising a child alone in a world that would use her against him without hesitation, that armor shows its age. Yoon-hee reaches across the table and places her small hand on top of Nia's. No words, just that. Then the man at Jaemin's shoulder, dark earpiece, expressionless, leans in and speaks 3 words in Korean, low enough that only Jaemin catches them. Jaemin's stillness changes quality. Not motion yet, the moment before motion, the inhale before a door is kicked open. The footage, he says quietly, eyes already moving toward the exits, is already circulating. The Choi faction just saw Yoon-hee's face. They saw Nia sitting beside her, and they are very good at reading the language of association. Comment right now. What do you think they do with that footage? Because the answer is coming fast. And Nia does not yet know her name is already being spoken in a room she has never been in. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. This story does not slow down from here. Chapter 8. The footage is 43 seconds long. Shot from a phone near the bar, uploaded within minutes of Halverson's arrest, already tagged and shared across 3 platforms before Jaemin's security team can flag it. It shows Yoon-hee at Nia's table. It shows Nia leaning toward the child with the ease of someone who belongs there. It shows Jaemin standing directly behind them both, not beside Nia, not across the table, but behind her, in the position that in his world means one specific thing: protection. In the Choi faction's world, that 43 seconds of footage is a map. They will read this as a new alliance, Jaemin says. His voice is flat, tactical, the version of him that runs calculations instead of feeling them. They will see you as significant to me, which means they will see you as a door. I am not a door, Nia says. In their language, you don't have a choice about that. Proximity to me is a statement. They will build a theory around that footage within the hour, and they will test the theory. 2 of Jaemin's people have materialized near the ballroom's far exit, neither visibly armed, both carrying the particular stillness of people running a different kind of math than everyone else in the room. Yoon-hee tugs at Nia's sleeve. Her small face is careful, practiced at not showing fear in public, but her eyes ask the question her voice has been trained not to ask first. Will you come again? She says. Nia looks at her. She takes in the cream cardigan, the precise pigtails starting to loosen at the ends after a long night. The one small patent leather shoe tapping the chair leg in a rhythm Nia suspects the child is not aware of, the only involuntary thing about her. She does not answer immediately, because the honest answer is not simple, and Yoon-hee is a child who has already been given too many simplified answers in place of true ones. I will arrange a car for you tonight, Jaemin says to Nia. Do not take your own. I can handle... This is not a question of your capability. He looks at her directly. It is a question of their timeline. They move fast when they feel exposed. Halverson being taken tonight, that is a message they will interpret as escalation. They will want to respond before the week ends. Nia processes this, weighs it against the pride that has carried her through 27 funding rejections and 100 rooms that didn't want her in them. Then she nods. Once, not because she is deferring, because she is intelligent enough to use reliable intelligence when it is offered. She leaves the Grand Astoria ballroom at 11:47. She is home by 12:23. She steps out of the car, takes the elevator to her penthouse floor, and walks to the window with her heels still on. The street below is quiet, except for the black sedan parked directly across from her building, engine running, headlights off. It was not there this morning. That sedan. I parked outside her home at midnight, engine running, no plates visible from the window. Comment what you would do right now if you were Nia. Call the police? Call Jae-min? Walk away from all of it? Because what she does next is the choice that splits this story in two. Subscribe now and turn on your notifications. You do not want to walk into the next chapter without seeing how it starts. Chapter 9. She doesn't sleep. At 1:47 in the morning, Nia stands at her penthouse window in bare feet and an oversized t-shirt, holding a cup of chamomile tea she poured 40 minutes ago and has not touched. The tea has gone cold. The sedan is still there. She has been building things her entire life. Businesses, strategies, versions of herself strong enough to walk into rooms that had already decided against her and walk back out with the deal signed. She has never once needed someone else's protection to do it. But this is a different kind of room. She thinks about Halverson, about the documents built with her name on them, the hours of careful, technical work that went into making her guilt look credible. Someone had studied her, her company structures, her contracts, her signature, had built a version of her life designed to collapse the real one. She thinks about Zola Renee Okafor, a journalist from Atlanta with a story worth dying for, who died before it could be told, whose daughter now sits in ballrooms with folded hands and eyes that see everything, and a father who believes that love means building walls high enough that nothing can get through, including the parts of herself she hasn't been allowed to know yet. Nia sets the cold tea on the windowsill. She refuses to be used again. She also refuses to be the reason a 6-year-old girl grows up split in half. Both things are true at the same time. She is still working out what they require from her when the second phone vibrates on the kitchen counter. The encrypted one. She crosses the room, picks it up, presses it to her ear. They moved faster than I expected. Jae-min's voice. No greeting, no preamble. The voice of a man already inside a situation that is moving. What moved? The sound cuts her sentence off. One sound, sharp, definitive, the kind of sound that does not need to be explained to anyone who has ever heard it. A gunshot. Then the line goes completely silent, and Nia is already moving toward the door. A gunshot, through an encrypted line, in the middle of the night, and Nia moves toward the danger instead of away from it. Comment one word right now. One word that describes what kind of woman does that. Because that word is the whole story. Subscribe to AfroKorean Films HQ and turn on your notifications. The final chapter is next, and what Nia finds when she arrives will tell you everything about what this story was really about from the very first whisper. Chapter 10. She finds the address already loaded into the encrypted phone, a contingency, built before she ever agreed to take the device. She registers this fact and files it, another layer of a plan she was never shown in full, and gets into the running sedan anyway, because Yoon-hee's face is the only calculation that matters right now. 40 minutes. Brooklyn. A brownstone on a block so quiet the only sound is her own footsteps on the front steps. 3 locks. A staircase that smells like cedar wood and old paper and the particular stillness of a place that has been used as a safe house long enough to know how to hold secrets. Yoon-hee is on a couch at the back of the room, wrapped in a heavy blanket, one pigtail half undone, one small shoe missing. She is awake. She is unhurt. But her eyes, those eyes that were already too old for her face, have aged again tonight, the way children's eyes age when the world confirms what they were afraid was true. She sees Nia walk through the door. Something in her small face lets go. Jae-min stands at the far end of the room, jacket off, a fresh bandage on his left forearm applied recently and not gently. His hands, always so still, always so controlled, are not entirely steady. He looks at Nia the way a man looks at something he did not allow himself to need and has now failed to stop needing. The Choi faction made their opening move, he says. It will not be their last. "What do you need from me?" Nia asks. He is quiet for a moment. The particular quiet of a man choosing between the version of himself that has always handled everything alone and the version that is standing in front of him right now asking to be let in. "I am offering you protection. Or partnership." He stops. Something crosses his face that has no practiced name, or something I do not have language for yet. Yoonhee looks up from the blanket. Her voice is barely above a breath. "Next time," she whispers, "will you sit with us?" The room holds that question. Nia looks at the child, then at the man, then back at the child. In this world, sitting at the table is not a courtesy. It is a declaration. You are either family or you are the next war. And outside the brownstone on the quiet Brooklyn street, a phone is ringing in a car that does not belong to anyone in this room. Someone is already watching the door. That is where episode 1 ends. Not with a resolution, with a door left open, and someone already standing on the other side of it. If this story moved something in you, if you felt Nia's anger, if you understood Yoonhee's silence, if Jaemin's fracture hit closer than you expected, then this channel was built for you. AfroKorean Films HQ exists for every story that lives between worlds and gets buried there. We pull them out, we tell them in full, and we will not stop. Subscribe right now and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories like this one do not just entertain. They remind people who they are. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what this story meant to you. Tell us what you want to see next. Yeah, your voice shapes what gets told. Episode 2 is coming. The Choi faction has made their move. Yoonhee knows more than she has said, and Nia Calderon has not yet decided what she is willing to become to protect a child who walked up to her table and asked one small question. Who hunts who? AfroKorean Films HQ, the only channel where both worlds collide, and neither survives unchanged.